Welcome back to Attacking Third. USA get the 1-0 win thanks to Mallory Swanson in the 57th minute to win gold. Their first time in 10 years. Incredible, or 12 years, excuse me, from 2012. And they do it again over Brazil. But we have to talk about how this match started, because one change for the U.S., two for Brazil coming into the starting lineups. But the lack of rotation from Emma Hayes and the U.S. side proved that Brazil looked a little fresher to start this game. Darian, in the opening whistle and how this game unfolded, what did you notice about how both Brazil and the U.S. were playing?
Well, the US came exactly how they've came out every single game. Brazil, we predicted they're not going to sit in a low block. They're not going to be scared to play against the US. They just took down the number one team in the world, Spain. You're going to come out swinging. And they came out and they were building in a 3-2-5. They had 5 on the US back line. They were playing over Dunn's side, especially because that left back position rotates a little bit higher. And I think it caused so many questions. You saw Adriana and Portillo going against Davidson and Dunn. If Dunn was there, no one was getting by. I mean, Dunn was saving the world on that left side. She's my player of the tournament. I know we're going to get into it, but all hail to Crystal Dunn. But when it was Davidson, they were taking full advantage, getting end lines, sending crosses in. Same between Fox and Gurma. There was some combination play where they were splitting the outside back and the center back and getting into really dangerous positions. And then, you know what? When they were going heavy into transition and the U.S. tried to counter, they were picking balls off. They were regaining possession really quickly. They were really shutting down the U.S. attack. And I think for the first 45 minutes, it was really effective. The U.S. didn't have much of an answer. There were some opportunities, but the first half fully went to this Brazilian side, and I think they executed their game plan well. You could see the freshness in their legs too over the U.S., and that was a big concern we had coming into this match. But the U.S. they dug deep. I don't know how these girls still have energy.
Sandra, was there a moment of Brazil's influence on this first half that stood out to you?
Ludmila, I think she had an incredible tournament for Brazil. But you know who else had a really incredible tournament? Alyssa Nair. And the future Chicago Red Stars teammates had a couple of moments where they kind of introduced themselves to the other. But there's a moment, I think, during this first half where you see that impressive play by Brazil, where they come out and want to take the game to the United States. I think I said ahead in the build up to this game that the Believo-meter was off the charts for this game on both sides. The USA and Brazil were coming into this game with absolute believe ball on their mind, because when you get to that point in the gold medal match, you kind of have to have some of those other things to pull from, because the fatigue is starting to set in. You're starting to feel it in your body and on your legs. And I wondered if some of the energy and some of the game that Brazil was bringing early on, if it was going to be sustainable throughout the remainder of the match. You're talking about a gold medal match where obviously you have to go through 90, but what if this goes longer? So there was a little bit of the feeling maybe around the half hour mark for me where I was like, eventually this is actually going to play in the favor of the United States, because Brazil has done a lot of great work throughout these Olympics, but eventually there's a game where that run comes to a stop, and it was this gold medal game. To not convert those chances that they had in the first half gave that feeling as if it was going to come back and haunt them, and it absolutely did, because the USA have an absolutely haunting attacking line.
I would wanted to shake my TV because Brazil was creating brilliant 1v1s, 2v1s on the outsides. Portillo, for me, was player of the match for Brazil, whipping balls in, being lethal, going 1v1, especially against Davidson. I thought she kind of had Davidson in her back pocket at times. No one was throwing body, life, limb, heart to get on the end of the crosses. There was times where you could literally throw your leg out, dive, do something just to get something on it. Make Alyssa Nair have to make a standout save again. They had so many opportunities in the first half around the 20th minute for a spell of maybe 10 minutes where they were just attacking so many dangerous balls across the back line, beating Gurma 1v1. The first time we've really seen Gurma kind of take an L out 1v1 battle in this entire tournament, maybe this entire year.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
How do you not? I just wanted them to throw their bodies on the line to get it on frame. And there were opportunities where I feel they didn't, and they could have had 2 or 3 on the US.
Brazil had those waves of attack and really coming from the wide areas. That's where they worked so well with their wingback players, with Yasmin and Adriana getting high, but it was Ludmila and Yasmin combining on the left side, and they looked so good together. They looked confident in running at it, but throughout all of that, Brazil continued to put the U.S. in uncomfortable positions where the U.S. had to defend a lot. And Darian, you mentioned Naomi Girma having gotten beat, and that not happening very often. However, Alyssa Nair still comes up with big saves, right? There's a moment at the end of this first half where a cross comes in, Emily Fox just heads it wide, so it's not on target. And then in the stoppage time at the end of the first half, Alyssa Nair with a huge save from crosses that come in from Brazil from the right side, and then opportunities that are on target. However, it stays scoreless heading into the half. How much confidence, Darian, does that give the United States, knowing that Brazil probably could have and should have had 2, maybe 1 at least in the first 45?
It was good because the US sustained this wave of pressure. And as Sandra thought, I didn't think Brazil could come out and maintain that transition energy, that high press energy for the entirety of the second half. And it proved true. They fell off. They looked unorganized in the back. Once the US was still focusing on let's transition because Brazil's sending so many numbers forward, we saw mental lapses. We saw tired legs, mistakes that shouldn't be made in a final that ultimately cause a goal and cause quite a few chances for the US to get goals. So I think the U.S. confidence, sustaining that pressure, being able to work through it, come out 0-0, knowing, okay, we've got 45 minutes to put it in the bag to do it. They ultimately did. And I think that their game plan was so smart. Ride that wave. Don't try to falter. Don't change your game plan too much. And it worked out. I mean, Emma Hayes is a tactical genius. That pressure is scary to play against. It's chaotic. It makes you have a lot of errors in your game. It's mentally exhausting to defend like that and try to be organized. You look at your back line and there's more Brazilian shirts than US shirts.
I was going to
say,
it's scary. That Brazil had the ball, it just looked like green shirts running at the blue shirts. And
like, there's a lot of problems to solve, but I think just the whole trend of this tournament has been watching the US overcome challenge after challenge, teams posing different questions for the US. They've come out on top. I think going to this game, they had the utmost confidence that they could solve it. Just get through the half, and then it's going to come. I had the feeling they just knew it's going to come.
I think that's what, that is such an important, those are so many important points to know. And I think that's sort of what I referenced as well with some of the believe ball. It's not just about having the confidence and getting to the moment of competing into a gold medal match and saying, we've come so far, so of course we can win it. Yes, of course that comes with it. It's the believe ball mentality of knowing that there are long stretches of this game that probably feel bad to you as a player on the pitch. I can only imagine that it doesn't feel great when you are asked as a first-time Olympian, whether you're Sam Coffey or Corbin Albert, to start in this game and see and feel what Brazil is bringing to you on the pitch. You absolutely have to have your believe ball meter off the charts in this one. And it was great to sort of see that type of response, to kind of still keep that confidence, to not get frustrated if maybe long stretches of first half play were not going your way.
At halftime, US Brazil go into the locker room tied 0-0. And on the broadcast, Julie Foudy mentioned a stat, team passing with Naomi Girma. She said that Girma had a team high of 109 touches through the first 5 matches. And at halftime for the US, she only had 17. And after she said that, I thought, well, Sam Coffey really hasn't been dictating as much of this game as I need her to. So I looked up Coffey's passing stats. Through first half against Brazil, Coffey had completed 6 of her 11 attempted passes. That is a 55% completion. But only attempting 11 passes. When you look back to the semifinal match against Germany, Coffey had 53 of her 60 attempts completed at 88% throughout 90 minutes of that match. And we were only at 11 at 45 minutes. Coffey was going to have to step up her game in the second half, get on the ball more, be an option for German to have those wall passes. And that possession for the U.S. was going to ultimately dictate how well they did in the second 45. And spoiler alert, they did dang well because the U.S. got a goal from Mallory Swanson and they end up winning.